Hey, Utah, happy holidays, and thanks so much for joining us for our last virtual town hall of the year. It's a crisp and cold December evening. I'm here at the historic Kearns Mansion, the also known as the Governor's Mansion, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions tonight. Now, we're so excited. We've decorated for the Christmas season. We know this is a fun holiday season for everyone. I hope you're doing well. But before we start, I do just want to let you know that while it is a joyous time for almost all of us, I know that it can also be a tough one for some of you out there who may be struggling. Sadly, we know that many of you are struggling, and that unfortunately, suicides increase this time of year. So I want you to know that you are not alone. If you or someone you know needs help, please, please, please reach out. You can call 988 or download the Safe UT app. For those with loved ones in the military, find the Live On Military Playbook on social media for a free course on how to help someone you know, how to talk to them, someone who might be struggling. There is help and there is hope. Please reach out, talk to someone, make sure your parents, your friends, your kids are doing okay. Again, it's a great time of year, but not for everyone. And we want to make sure that you stay. We need you to stay. We love you and we appreciate you. We have so much to look forward to this next year, and we can do this together. So, all right, with that, I want to hear what's on your mind. So, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. We have had people that sent questions in already, so we're going to start with those, and we'll jump right in. Okay, let's see. I have a question from Colin. Colin asks, what can we do to get the state ready for the Olympics in 2034, or is it too early to start thinking about that? Well, Colin, thank you for the question. We are very excited to welcome the world back to Salt Lake City in 2034. While we haven't got the final selection, it's the closest thing. They changed the way they do the selection process, and so we've been named a preferred host city. And because we're the only preferred host city named for 2034, it's basically a done deal. We just have to get through the contracts. We've already done 90% of the work that needs to be done. So it's just really about finalizing things. And so we can pretty much officially say that the Olympics are coming back in 2034. Now, the best part of our bid for the Winter Games is that we're turnkey. We're already ready for the games. We could host them tomorrow if we needed to. We kept all of our venues active. Unlike other countries, we didn't build them up and then tear them down. They are active and working right now. But the good news is having a 10-year runway gives us a tremendous opportunity to dream big and think about the ways we want to improve our state and our infrastructure, create the amenities that will benefit our residents, and really accelerate the timeline. So I think it's the perfect time to have these conversations. I've already reached out to the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate to say, hey, what do you guys want to do? Let's get our groups together. Let's talk to our cities, our towns. Let's get ideas from the general public. We did some great things in preparation for the 2002 Olympics, and I know we can do some great things for this one. So again, congratulations to everybody that's worked on this so hard. It's been a long time coming, and we should be proud to host the world again in just over 10 years. All right, let's go to the next question. We have an anonymous question. It says, I want Governor Cox to speak on America's broken and arbitrary immigration laws. So many families are affected by this, mine included. My husband's green card was delayed because we didn't send my tax info for 2022, even though we sent the papers in 2022. So if I get this right, you couldn't send the 2022 tax info until 2023, even though you filed the papers in 2022, which again makes absolutely no sense. So it is something that is 100% not our fault. They took too long to start working with our case. The system is so messed up. Well, to our anonymous friend out there, this is maddening, and it makes me so angry. It really doesn't make sense. Immigration is one issue that governors can't control. We know that the Constitution specifically says that this is the purview of Congress, and yet it does affect our states. And so governors do need to lean in and help to solve this problem. It is one that I've been encouraging Congress to work on for several years. At the National Governors Association that I am chairing right now, I actually, because I so believe in fixing this issue and I believe we can fix this issue, we formed a working group to come up with common sense solutions. Because immigration really comes down to two things. Number one, we have to secure our border. And most Americans believe that. By the way, most Democrats believe that now. In fact, some recent information shows that 70% of Democrats agree that we need to do more to secure our border. That's good news. That means we can maybe get something done. That's first. Second of all, we actually have to fix legal immigration that is so broken for reasons that you just mentioned. We have 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats, governors working together on this, and it's amazing. Again, the common sense agreement that we're finding. There's actually so much that we can do here, and I would encourage you to look in the coming weeks for our recommendations that we'll be forwarding on to Congress, hoping that we can push them to actually get this done. There's been nothing done on immigration for over 40 years. Both parties, when they've had an opportunity, have just kicked the can down the road. Most Americans agree on how to fix this, and we want to push that forward. So again, thank you for that question. Okay, next up, we have a question from Rachel. Rachel asks, in Governor Cox's most recent budget proposal regarding homelessness in Utah, $30 million will be for deeply affordable housing. How is deeply affordable housing defined by the state? What percentage of income will it be? The common 30% of gross monthly income, that's part of the question. Furthermore, will this be doable for single income houses who earn less than $1,500 in income monthly? Rachel, thank you for that question. We've in our budget, we talked a lot about housing. We have a housing crisis, not just in the state of Utah, but all across the country. Every governor is working on this. We've been working on deeply affordable housing for several years. The legislature has supported increased funding over the past 2 years. Again, we'll see what happens in this legislative session. But when we talk about deeply affordable housing, we are talking about housing for households whose income is below 30% of the area median income, more commonly referred to as AMI. In Utah, that basically means that a 4-person household whose income is less than $31,000 per year would qualify. So yes, a household earning less than $1,500 per month would fall into that category. We know that we have a critical need right now for more deeply affordable housing units in Utah. Sadly, right now, there are only about 3 available units for every 100 households that are below that 30% AMI. The good news is many of those below 30% AMI are in households already, but we still need more. So our fiscal year 25 budget, as you mentioned, recommend $30 million for deeply affordable housing to help access stable and safe housing, no matter income or state of physical or mental health. 25 of that we're proposing would go to the Deeply Affordable Housing Grants Program to help construct these units. And again, there are many of those being built right now because of what the legislature did in the past 2 years. We're also proposing $5 million to go to the Deeply Affordable Stabilization Grant Program to support services provided to the residents in these units. So a lot of work left to do, and we would encourage you to pay attention, to reach out to legislators and help get support for these very important programs. Okay, let's go to the next question. We have a question from Natalie. How is Utah doing with snow this year? Great question. Will it be another crazy winter like last year? I hope it will be another crazy winter like last year, where we had record snowfall, where we literally record snowfall, the most snow ever recorded in the history of our state. It was wild. We were very lucky not to have more flooding, as the elements were tempered just perfectly, and there was some localized flooding, but by and large, we came out unscathed, which is very fortunate. Now, looking at this water year, I want to preface everything I'm saying by saying that it is very, very, very early. Um, as of mid-December, northern Utah has seen positive progress. In fact, we are above average in northern Utah. Southern part of the state, not so much. We're recording below normal numbers there. We still have 111 days remaining till the typical peak snowpack. So again, we're a long ways from being able to say this is going to be a good year or a bad year. What I will say is, so far, as of yesterday, we're very close to where we were last year, almost identical. The difference is that this is when we started getting all of those storms that just started coming one after another. Right now, it looks like the next 8 or 9 days are going to be pretty dry. The good news is we do have some storms that are shaping up out there. It looks like some good storms towards the end of the month, 24th, 25th, 26th, right around Christmas. We could have a white Christmas if things hold. Meteorologists are telling us that the weather patterns are setting up for a good end of month, and I remain very, very hopeful. So one of the things that we do look at, though, is the snow water equivalent. That's the metric that we assess kind of the water availability. Currently stands at 11% above normal for this time of year, again, which is great. This is a big improvement since the end of November, when we were 39% below normal. The last two storms have been just remarkable. I also want to give you some amazing news, and that is that our reservoirs, our vital storage areas, our reservoirs currently stand at 77% full statewide. That is amazing. This is 20% higher than normal for reservoirs this time of year. If you'll remember, just a year ago, we were at 50%. We were about 10% below normal for this time of year. So that's just great news. So Utah snowpack is off to a promising start to the season. It's still too early to make predictions for next spring, but I'm going to keep praying, and I hope you will too. I will say, with that reservoir storage, that does not include Lake Powell, which is still very low, and it came up last year, and we're hoping it will come up again this year. Also, just want to mention the Great Salt Lake. We had a huge year last year. Again, billions of gallons of more water in our state. We saw the Great Salt Lake go up 5.5 feet last year. The 2 years before that, it only went up 1 foot. And so that's a huge increase, but we need another 5.5 to 6 feet to get back to where the Great Salt Lake should be. So still some work to do there. So thank you for the question. Okay, looks like we have another Olympic question coming in here from Nick, who asked, will public transit be expanded in preparation for the 2034 Olympics? This is certainly a terrific opportunity for us to make those strategic investments in all of our transportation infrastructure, but particularly when it comes to public transit. Many of you will recall that in the lead up to the 2002 Winter Games, we built our TRAX lines that have been wildly popular, and I would love to continue that tradition, see if we can expand those TRAX lines into some other places that are desperate for them, but we just haven't had the opportunity for the infrastructure. Just so you know, over the past 3 years, we've supported expanding transit, including double tracking a front runner, so that front runner can run more regularly. Instead of every half hour, we can get to every 20 minutes or so, getting people on trains. We're including expanding tracks to the point in our fiscal 25-year proposed budget. To enhance Utah's transit system for improved convenience, frequency, and reliability, we need all of these things. We're proposing reallocating roughly $45 million annually to the Transportation Investment Fund. We're hoping that's not a tax increase. It's just moving some of our existing transportation funds into the transit category. We're hoping that the legislature will support us in that. This will basically double the ongoing funding for transit projects statewide every year, including the front runner and the point. So we're very supportive of using this opportunity in the next 10 years to expand transit. I will also just mention that last year we were able to secure historic funding for increases in trails across the state. As you know, I've talked about it before. I proposed a generational project to connect every city in Utah by trail. We have lots of amazing trails out there, but we want people to be able to bike, to use e-bikes, to run, push strollers, to just increase trail access all across the state. And the legislature agreed, and so we're really proud. That's a 10-year program. We're going to be doing more and more trails, connecting trails that already exist every year, but stay tuned for that as well. We think you'll enjoy that. Okay, let's get to some more of our questions. We have another anonymous question that came in. Let's see, what are the government initiatives encouraging diversity around business, schools, and employers? Thank you for that question. We do want Utah to be a place where everyone can thrive. So we've really focused the past 3 years on making sure that there's a seat at the table for everyone. Far too often we have kind of a scarcity mentality, and that scarcity mentality instead of abundance mentality is something that we worry about. We're seeing that kind of growing all across the United States, and there's some good news. There was a study done in Harvard that shows that of every state in the nation, Utah has less of a scarcity mentality. They call it this zero-sum mentality. The zero-sum means that if somebody wins, then I'm losing. That zero-sum mentality is really dangerous and bad for our constitutional republic. It's bad for democracy. It's just bad for our people. What Harvard found was that in Utah, we do not have a zero-sum mentality, that we believe that when someone else wins, that's good for all of us. And so I'm grateful to live in a state that understands that. We've worked to expand representation on our boards and commissions. We want more people involved to reflect the citizens that it serves. When it comes to business opportunities, we do have grants for rural communities and programs to support technology, aerospace, and life sciences. We want to encourage certain sectors and key industries. All of that being said, I am worried about some of the things that are happening on our college campuses. And you've heard me talk about that recently, a big announcement. I am worried that some of those diversity programs on our college campuses aren't doing what they set out to do, and that is to make more opportunities available for those for people in our state who haven't traditionally had those opportunities. I think they've gotten very political, and I think they're doing more to divide us than to bring us together. I very much believe in the vision of Martin Luther King Jr. and others, this idea that we can build together as communities, that we are stronger when we come together, not when we divide ourselves, but when we actually come together to support each other. Where we're judged not by the color of our skin, right, but the content of our character. Those are the things that matter, and we're doing better at that in some areas in Utah. We have a ways to go in others, and so you're going to be hearing more from me about this over the coming months as we work with higher education, especially to make sure that we get those programs right. Because I don't feel like they're headed in a right direction. I feel like they're much more divisive right now than they are unifying, and we are a pluralistic society. We need to be working together and lifting everyone, and I look forward to those conversations as we move forward. Okay, it looks like we have a new question that came in on LinkedIn from Matt. Has the state of Utah considered restricting how many rental properties or short-term rentals that someone can own? Matt, this is a great question. So if you, I mentioned earlier, I'm really worried about the price of housing in our state. I believe the greatest threat to our prosperity as a state is the price of housing. It's right now, we know that approximately 75 to 80% of Utahns right now could not afford a median priced home. This rising price of housing is affecting every state in the nation. It's a little more acute here in the Mountain West, because especially in Utah, where our economy has been so successful. And the problem is a supply issue, and so we stopped building starter homes. Sadly, for whatever reason, 15 or 16 years ago, we build apartment buildings, and we're doing better there. We're building bigger homes, and they're there's a lot happening in that space. But starter homes, 1,000 to 1,500 square foot homes, homes that I grew up in, homes that my wife and I bought, our first home. So many of us out there, we just stopped building those, and it's so sad because I can't imagine a generation that will never be able to buy property or afford a home. The American dream is based on that, and so I'm very passionate about this one, Matt. Sorry, I promise I'm getting to your question, but we've looked at the data, and we know we need to build 35,000 starter homes over the next 5 years. And so that's the goal. That's my big audacious, crazy goal, is for us to build 35,000 starter homes in Utah over the next 5 years so that we can bring down the price of housing. Again, this is simple economics, supply and demand. Economics says when you have high demand and low supply, the price is going to go up, right? When you have low demand and high supply, the price goes down. Well, we know we have high demand. We have so many families out there that want to buy a home and just can't afford it. Sadly, we have low supply, so we need to help increase the supply. So we sat down and we looked at what is causing the low supply. There are several things. One happens to be government. Government is part of the problem on low supply. The way we do zoning matters, right? If you can only build 3 homes on an acre of land, so right, a third of an acre, then the price of those homes is going to be much more expensive because the price of the land, right, can only be divided into 3. You can only build 3 homes, so you're going to build bigger homes on there. Now, if you can build 8 homes on that same acre, 8 smaller homes, now you have an opportunity to lower the price, right? And so that's what we're looking at. We've talked to cities and towns who are interested in doing more of these starter home zones where we can build these. One of the problems is we have about 190,000 lots available in the state of Utah, but they don't have infrastructure. And so again, really expensive to build on those lots, and many builders won't because they don't have roads, they don't have sewer, they don't have power, the things that we need. So we are asking the legislature we created an infrastructure bank to set aside money in that infrastructure bank to help cities get the infrastructure to these properties so that we can build more homes there. Now, I'm still getting to your question, I promise. One of the problems we have, one of the reasons we have less supply is the houses that do exist are being taken out of that supply chain. How is that happening? Well, one is that we have institutional buyers. So these are large investment companies like BlackRock and others who are coming in. It's happening all across the country. It's worse in some other states, but it is happening here. They're coming up and buying homes and then turning them into rental properties. So now we've just removed those homes from the supply. Now a family that could have bought that house isn't able to buy that house. And we're in a worse shape than we were before. We have new families, our kids are growing up, they want to buy a home, but we're taking homes out of there. So even if we build new homes, if they just get purchased or used as secondary rentals, right, short-term rentals, then those also aren't available. So one of the proposals that I made with this Utah First Homes initiative, that's what we're calling it, Utah First Homes, 35,000 starter homes, is that those homes would need to be owner occupied to take advantage of this infrastructure bank, to take advantage of the first time home buyer program that we passed last year. So they would have to be owner occupied, which means that these big institutional investors couldn't buy those and they couldn't be used for secondary rentals. Now, I know this is an issue that's being looked at all across the country. There was a bill in Congress to deal with some of this. It was proposed, I think, in July. It hasn't gone anywhere yet. Certainly, we'll be looking at it with legislatures, the legislature here this year. I've heard from no fewer than 5, maybe 6 legislators who are very interested in this very issue. And we estimate right now, I think that we have about 28,000 homes that are short-term rentals. And by the way, I love short-term rentals. My family and I use short-term rentals all the time. I don't want government to come in and say we can never have short-term rentals, but we do have a market failure happening right now, and it is a public crisis. And so I think it's appropriate for us to have these conversations and make sure we have the right balance. So Matt, again, thank you for that very insightful question. I really appreciate it. Okay, We have another question from Drew on X, formerly known as Twitter. With your Disagree Better initiative, what are some concrete ideas on how we can handle situations when people engage us in harmful disagreement? Thank you for that. For those of you that don't know, as the chair of the National Governors Association this year, I feel very fortunate to lead 50 governors, a bipartisan organization. Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat, is my vice chair. We rotate a Republican and a Democrat every year, and I chose as my initiative this year Disagree Better, to help with the terrible polarization that is happening in our country. I just realized that we can't solve any of the biggest problems facing our nation if we hate each other, if there's contempt, if we're tearing each other apart. That's not how the founders who disagreed profoundly, they found ways to work together. So this initiative is not just about getting along. It's actually about disagreeing. Okay, so it is important to stay true to our values and our principles, but we can there's a healthy way to have conflict and an unhealthy way. And what you're referring to obviously is unhealthy conflict, where we're attacking, tearing down. Now, here, so there are some concrete practical ideas that I'm learning and practicing, because this is not so easy for me. The first one is to listen and to ask questions, to be curious. So one of the things I love to do is I love to pause and take a breath, and then ask the person that I disagree with, because again, my first intuition is to fight back, to just I'm an attorney, I'm a litigator, I was trained in this to tear people down, and I know that's not helpful. And so what I've trained myself to do is ask the question: tell me more about why you feel that way. Tell me more about why you're so passionate about that. It gives me an opportunity to catch my breath. Right? I've asked a question, shown I'm interested in the other person. It helps them to think about what they're really saying as well. Gives them an opportunity to articulate the why behind what they're saying. Sometimes I'll ask the question 2 or 3 times. I'll keep asking, I'll keep probing. And then they're much more likely to give me an opportunity to express my views as well. But also, when we get to the core of what they believe, we'll often find we're not as far apart as we thought we were. That at the core, we believe the same things. We love our family, we love our country, we want to make the world a better place, we want to help people. And when we find that, now we have some common ground to start to build on, and hopefully we can find some common ground. I'm telling you, it's magical. It actually works. I've seen some of the most hostile situations where people actually were screaming at each other and left with an apology and a hug, because they took those concrete steps and actually treated each other with respect. It's easy to just fight back and say, I shouldn't even listen to those people. Those people are terrible. Those people are trying to destroy our country. But that's not going to do anything to save our country. This is the only way to do it. And I'm grateful for your willingness to care enough to ask the question. I also just want to say that there's a tremendous amount of research behind what we're doing. This isn't just me saying this is a good idea. We've been working with researchers who have done experiments on the right and the left in lots of institutions all over the country, who have been engaged in this for years. And they will tell you that when we listen, when we're curious, when we engage in more productive ways, really good things can happen. So keep up the good work. And this Christmas season is a great time to practice it when you're around some family who may disagree a little bit. Okay, we have another question from Keen on LinkedIn. How do you plan to promote and support innovation and entrepreneurship in Utah, specifically in emerging sectors such as technology and renewable energy, to ensure continued economic growth and prosperity in Utah? Keen, great question. So our strategy when I became governor was to really target specific markets that are growth markets. And these include aerospace, technology, and life sciences. Those are 3 of the biggest ones, and those are some that you've mentioned. So the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity is really targeting these specific industries because we know they provide some of the best paying jobs and opportunities for Utah. They also help solve some of the biggest problems facing our country today. Now, I set out a goal when I became governor to make Utah the startup state, to support entrepreneurship. I created a new position that is directly related to entrepreneurship. It's an entrepreneur in residence. Brad Bonham is filling that role right now. He's doing it for free, which I very much appreciate. He's an entrepreneur who's been very successful, and he's helping us understand entrepreneurship better, making sure that the programs that exist in the state of Utah, first of all, aren't hurting entrepreneurship, but are also encouraging our entrepreneurs. We're very proud. We've moved up in those rankings. There are a couple that have us as the best state in the nation for startups. We know we still have a ways to go there. We also had an incredible announcement, a bill that passed last year, and some work that's being done here with some funding. It's not taxpayer money. It's money from another fund that came to that the government has that didn't come directly from taxpayers from an old program that we are repurposing right now to help in some of these sectors that you mentioned, in life sciences and the deep tech sector, to help some of these entrepreneurs in the state who have amazing ideas, many of them coming out of our universities, but they don't yet have the private sector funding coming in to help them out. They need to prove concept of what they're doing. We have a board of amazing entrepreneurs and technologists in the state who have done this work to help pick the best technologies to invest in. And the hope is we have our first 3 companies out there right now that are doing this work, that as those companies grow and flourish, as they get additional funding rounds coming into them, which will happen, again, seeing this board that has picked them, that is proving out the technology, that those will be wildly successful. That money will come back in again to this program, and we'll be able to help other companies as well that are just starting out. So some really cool things. That was a press conference that we had this week. Representative Jefferson Moss is helping to run that initiative. We know that Representative Stenquist and Senator Milner ran the bill. We're really proud of the work that they're doing. So there's so much happening in this space, and I would encourage you to reach out and learn more. Okay, let's go to our next one. We've still got time for a few more questions. This one comes from Justice on Facebook. The question is, will there ever be a front runner or track station to St. George? That's a very good question, Justice. I would love nothing more than for a train from Salt Lake to St. George. I'm a huge believer in high-speed rail. I've visited other countries where we've seen high-speed rail that is incredibly effective. I haven't been to Asia, but Asia is kind of, Japan and other places are really the best when it comes to their ability to build high-speed rail. I have traveled on high-speed rail in Europe. Again, they do a much better job than we do here in the United States. I've lamented that we used to be a country of builders and innovators, and sadly, we're not doing nearly as much of that as we used to when it comes to infrastructure. There is some good news. The federal government is starting to get interested again in high-speed rail. There's been some failed attempts in California, but we believe we can do this right here in the state of Utah. So our transportation officials are looking into this. They're working on this. There are groups that are looking at transportation going from Boise, again, train from Boise to Salt Lake to Vegas. What would that look like? How do we get a spur to St. George when we do something like that? So I'm starting to get more optimistic again, because I'm just a huge fan. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to, again, that federal government money, they're looking at these different projects. This project wasn't one that they decided to pick, but yet we're still interested in it, and so we're going to still move forward in looking at it, evaluating it, and hoping there are some opportunities to do that when we move forward. Okay, let's see. We've got maybe time for 1 or 2 more questions. We have a question from let's see. Oh, this is just cutting out a little bit. Do we have a question from Rulon? Any updates on the inland port? There we go. Okay, I've got it up there now. So yes, thank you, Rulon, for that. The inland port is moving forward. There was a lawsuit that was filed by Salt Lake City that has been resolved. We now have a very good working relationship with Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. Just for those who aren't familiar, the idea of an inland port, obviously we are landlocked as a state, so we don't have a port, but inland ports have become very popular for lots of reasons. One, it helps move goods into the state more rapidly. We've had backups at some of our ports, especially on the West Coast. So if we can unload that cargo, put it right on a train without processing it yet. That's one of the choke points. They have to process those goods at the port, but we can bring them here directly and then process them here. It will help us, again, get things here faster. It will help our businesses who are importing and exporting here in the state of Utah, and help with logistics. And so we're very excited about this. The economics of this are huge for the state of Utah, and it is moving forward out in the southwest quadrant, the northwest quadrant. Good things are happening there, and so we're really excited about where we are. We're also working on hubs that are moving out into parts of rural Utah, so that we can connect with rail and again help businesses that are expanding, especially manufacturing businesses and others in rural parts of the state, so they can get their goods onto train instead of always putting them on trucks, which is more efficient, can get things more quickly to the places that they need to go. And so I was at a ribbon cutting several months ago down in Cedar City. That's one of the hubs that we're creating as part of the Inland Port Project. Just very exciting things happening. Okay, last question from Bert on X. What event would you want to participate in the Winter Olympics? And what event do you think you would do the best in? Well, Bert, I appreciate that question. So I love basketball, and I've always been a huge fan of basketball. My dream growing up was to play in the NBA someday. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think there are some very obvious reasons why that didn't happen. I like to say that I made up for my lack of height by also being very slow. Turns out that's a terrible combination, to be short and slow. And so I got cut from the basketball team in high school. Still love basketball. I still play it as often as I possibly can. I don't think there's any chance that they would allow me on the basketball team for any Olympics event, sadly. But we're never giving up hope. When it comes to what event do you think I would do the best in? It's probably curling. I would have to say that seems like the event for middle-aged guys, who can kind of sweep very quickly or throw a stone. I've never tried curling, but I want to. By the way, you can actually sign up to do. There are curling events happening right now. Regular people like us here in the state of Utah at the ice venue can actually do curling. I've had some friends that have done it. They say it's a ball. I'm hoping to get out there and try some curling sometime. I do like to shoot, and so the biathlon sounds fun, but you have to cross country ski as well, and I can, but I don't think I could keep up. So that's probably out. So curling's probably our best bet. Thanks for the fun question. I appreciate that, Bert. To all of you who have joined us tonight, and those who will be listening later, thank you so much for tuning in. I just want to conclude by wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, a happy Hanukkah to those that are celebrating the Festival of Lights right now. We know there's so much darkness in the world. Whatever it is you celebrate, I hope it's full of light and joy and happiness. Utah is a special place. It's a unique place. It's a different place. And I'm proud of those things that make us different and unique. And I want to make sure we do everything to preserve those. So please take care of your neighbors. Give back this time of year. Whether you're religious or not, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to reflect on the blessings that we have in our life. And among those blessings, I count you, the people of this amazing state, the blessing that I have to serve as your governor. I'm the luckiest person in the world. And I never take that for granted. So whatever it is you're doing, I hope you're safe. I hope you have fun. I hope you have joy and a peaceful and wonderful new year. I look forward to seeing you again soon.